All right. So I hope everyone is doing well today. I gave you guys a couple more days to finish up the president's quiz. So that was 6-2, 6-3, and then you had 6-5 and 6-6. So I would say first let's try to take any questions about president's quiz. You have the president's quiz tutorial and the president's quiz projects. And then you had list of lists. So there were 3 related to the president's quiz. So are there any questions related to president's quiz?
I had one with the list of lists. Is there a way to randomize the options when the list picker is fired, when it pops up with a list?
I mean, like if you were doing randomize it, like how?
Like when you hit choose answer and it pops up with 3 options, A, B, and C. Is there a way to make the same 3 options but then come up B, C, A, so it's not always the same order? Like when you go through the quiz again, the first question, it was the middle answer. The second question was the top answer. So when you go through it again, it's going to be the same location.
As far as the answers?
Yeah, your answer choices. The answer is always going to stay the same, but randomize where they fall in that list.
I would say so they're hard coded into the list now. I would maybe if you made another list. There's Ralph. Say hi, Ralph.
Hi, Ralph.
The camera's in
Ah. Oh, I can see you.
It's gonna fall. There we go.
So I came in just on the end of that question.
So they're working on President's Quiz and List of Lists,
Uh-huh.
and Scott has asked, when you do List of Lists, it gives the answer choices in the same way every time. Is there a way to randomize them?
Yes. Short answer.
Short answer.
Hey.
I was wondering that too myself.
So the reason for doing the List of Lists, the way I've talked about it in the past, is so that way you could have a random, not random, but have the answers like scrambled, right? In the original President's Quiz, they're definitely in order, but the first answer is the answer to the first question, the second answer choice is the correct answer to the second question, and so on. So when I've done list of lists and tried to do it and teach it in the past, it's been so you can have multiple choice and kind of have the scrambled answers. So as long as the correct answer is there in that list, you can put other answers in there to kind of like throw them off and let them be able to select those answers, but not have it in the same order as the questions, right?
It would probably help if you shared your code and asked a question about specific code so we could see what it looks like. You want to do that?
I can't because I'm not on my actual Google account that I'm using App Inventor with because I don't have the permission for it, so I can't really do screen share at the moment.
So are you talking about the code in the tutorial?
No. The code in the tutorial is fine, but what I was asking to enhance it a little bit, if because I changed it to math questions, and let's say the answer was 3 to the multiple choice. So when they hit choose answer, I had the options of 1, 2, and 3 in that order. So next time through those questions, that same question pops up, the same answers are going to be in the exact same order, 1, 2, 3. Is there a way to mix it up so that the answers are presented 2, 3, 1, or randomly every time you redo the question?
I see.
So yeah, in the list.
There's different ways to do it. But it kind of depends on the structure, how it's structured. So,
well, I followed the tutorial, so I did the list of lists, and then just the answers in the 3 possibilities per question.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, let's put the list of lists up on the board and just think through it. I mean, I haven't looked at it in a while. Pauline might have it fresh in mind.
So there's here's your answers.
So why don't you draw the list right here so you can actually see it on the camera.
So if you had your answer.
She's left-handed in the video.
Choices. this would be like the name of it. And then for the first question, you could have, let's see,
ABC.
ABC. I mean, I don't want to do them. The point is, you don't have to do them in order, right?
Okay.
It could be D, W, S, right? As long as the correct answers are over here.
Well, yeah, you should have drawn over here because they can't see that.
So you can get, say the correct answer was B, and then the correct answer is
Wait. So these are.
S.
So this is one question. The answer
Yes.
choices. This is another.
Yes.
Okay.
These go together, these go together, and then as long as the correct answer is in there, that's what matters.
Okay.
Okay. So then, these answer choices for the third question are 1, 2, and 3. Each time through, when the question comes up, these are always going to be in this order.
Displayed in that order.
Displayed in that order, because the lesson is just teaching you that originally, this is B, E, S, and 1. Originally, the only answer choices were B, S, and 1 in that order, and you could get the question right by knowing this is the first question answer, this is the second question. You could catch on to that.
Yeah.
So to make it a little harder, there was a list of lists that you put in 3 answer choices, upper answers, make sure the correct answer is in there, and it turns it into multiple choice. So each time, though, they're going to be in the same order. So it's the second time through, we want to keep these 3, but can we show up the second time through? Could we put B, C, A, and randomize the order that these 3 are showing?
Okay.
That's
this question.
That's what that's it.
But this isn't going to change, right?
This would never change. You just always have to have B in there. I think this could be pick a random item from a list of, well, then you could get 2 of the same answer.
Yeah. Well, the answer is that it can be done. With this particular setup for the list, it's not that easy. Because basically you have to rearrange the things in each of these lists, right? Wouldn't that be the case, Scott?
Yeah, but you would have to do a separate, like there's no way to just put like a, I don't even know how to ask it.
Here's what you could do. So the way you check the right answer is they pick one of these and you compare it to that, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's an algorithm that could work. Well, does anyone else have an algorithm before I reveal my secret sauce?
What I would probably do is set a separate variable and store the one that you're going to change into that variable, and then shift everything by doing a +1 and an if statement that circulates it back to 1 if you get to the end of the list, and then put each thing into the next. So whatever you start with will be, so you might start with a third thing, that'll go into number 1, then it'll find 4, go back to number 1, put that into number 2, and then 2 will go into 3. So then you'll have the list, but it'll just be rearranged. It'll still be in an order, but the starting index would be different. That make sense?
I couldn't follow it completely. So go back to the beginning. Go through it more.
So let's say we start with A, B, and C. I would create a variable that I would just call D for the sake of things, or we'll just call it the switch, a variable for switch.
Yeah.
So what you would do is you would say you choose a random index. So let's say in this case it pulls up 2,
Yeah.
and then 2 becomes switch.
Yeah.
Then you're going to run a loop that says start with 1, put switch into, you want to swap switch with 1, and then switch becomes 1, then swap, I think I'm getting this wrong, but you basically just move everything up 1 or 2 indices and then have it cycle back around using, I think, an if statement.
I see.
That means you have to make 3 separate lists or different orders for each question as well.
So I think my answer is the same as similar to Phil's. You want to hear it?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, you pick a random number between 1 and 3. And then you're going to basically start counting there and wrap around. And that's going to determine the order. So they'll always be in the same order relative to one another, but they won't always start with A, right? So say you pick 2 as your number for switch, right? Then the way you would go through the way you would display the questions is you would pull out 2 first. So B would show first, then this would go to 3, then it would go to 1. So the answers would show B, C, A next time. Next time they see you pick another random number, suppose it comes out 3, then you would go 3, 1, 2. You get it?
Yeah.
And that's how you could do it. So you're using this modular arithmetic idea, or just an if statement, right? You add 1 to whatever index whatever random number between 1 and 3 you come, and if it goes greater than 3, you go back to 1.
Yep.
And then you just use that as an index into you use that to pull out each question choice, answer choice, one at a time.
That's similar to what you guys are doing with the next button. Right, so you should have seen the code for the next button when you click next. You increase the index.
That's similar to what Melissa and Michelle and Dana were doing in their app. Remember they had those 4 buttons?
Exactly, yep.
Yeah, so it's a similar algorithm to that.
Okay.
It's not ideal, but you have a fairly limited, we have a fairly limited list structure here. So
Yeah, I just didn't know if within the list options there was a way to just randomize the order of the list rather than having to do setting another variable and if-then statements. So I just didn't know if there was an easier way.
You could also write a function or a procedure to shuffle the list.
Mm-hmm.
That would be another way to do it, right? So you there too you pick 2 numbers between 1 and 3 and you swap those 2 elements in the list, right? So you're basically shuffling like you're shuffling cards. If you do that a couple times, maybe just do it once. One swap might be enough to randomize it enough. But that's more I think that's more complicated because now you have to get into replacing things in a list.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Matt, do you mind dropping off so that way Dana can join?
Yeah.
All right. Not you, Matt. No. You stay.
Sorry, what?
Mm-hmm.
So how's it gone? The week? How did you like the drills? Did you ask them that already?
Nope, that was on the schedule for today.
Are you enjoying being drilled?
I liked them. It was fun.
Most part, it was nice to be able to quickly go from one to the next, just small modifications, as opposed to having to start from scratch every time.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fairly focused on specific, tidbits of knowledge or skills. Does anyone have any questions about them?
I agree it was a good way to introduce a lot of different subtopics really quickly.
Uh-huh.
One thing, then something just slightly different, something just slightly different.
Yeah.
So for all different variations of text, in working with text, you kind of introduced a lot of things at once that you might not normally have all fit into one project.
Right. Plus, they give you practice writing procedures, and the next. I don't think is it this week. Have any of them been to write a function?
No,
That's next week. Okay.
Is the only difference there that it returns something? Because I did put some of those in.
Yeah. It returns a value instead of, so you don't have to use so many global variables.
Yeah, I used that.
I suppose I should modify those to include local variables.
Yeah, that was the one thing that was confusing, is how to use the local variable and then return something.
Yeah, that stuff gets a little confusing.
Yeah. It didn't seem to want you to return a local variable. You could either use it in the do part or you could return it. I didn't quite know how to get from one to the other, so I stuck with global ones.
Yeah. I found that whole design of those blocks very confusing when you were first doing it. I showed them examples that an experienced computer scientist could look at, say, factorial function and not make any sense out of it from the way the blocks look, say, right? So I thought it was quite, not good, but that's what we have.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why they had two different structures, one for local that you can use in the do and one for local to return. It's like, aren't you going to want to return the local value?
No, so I believe one is for using in procedures and one is for using in functions. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I'm still really having some trouble with the drills, but I don't want to take everybody's time up. Basically, it has to do with also, what's the correct way to display it?
Display the answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just copy your blocks and paste them on your portfolio.
No, I mean, when you're doing the drill, like what I was using was the join block.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at one of your solutions now.
yeah, I've got a couple. I mean, I've been switching. I put some of them up there, but then I've changed them up because Pauline's been helping me.
Yep.
And I don't want to take everybody's time up with it, but
why don't you continue with the question you're asking? We can actually share our screen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we can't share our screen.
Oh. Okay.
Go ahead.
So after you make the calculation,
yeah.
Then when you want to go ahead and display the result in the label output,
yep.
You're supposed to use that join block.
Yeah.
And so I was using a global variable also, but I'm not the thing with the join block. I mean, basically all it's doing is just concatenating the strings, correct?
Yeah. Yes. That's all it's doing. Yeah.
And so I just think I need some more practice with it, but the join block is just going to concatenate or append. It's not going to perform any type of a calculation.
Well, it's calculation. It's concatenation. That's what it does. That's
so it's just
calculation is the same. Concatenation is basically arithmetic on strings.
She's saying like this is a calculation. This is where the calculation is.
Yeah.
It's not. Here's what she was confused about. It's calculated here. It's not there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. So that's right, Michelle. That it doesn't perform addition.
Right. It's just appending or concatenating. Just
exactly right.
Exactly. Right. So I just think I need some more practice with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the database stuff's it's just really simple for me. It's just anything having to do with like the front end of the screen. I mean, I had like a bug with one of the just not having something in one of the property boxes, and it took me like an hour to find it. So I don't know. Anyway, keep working through it.
Well, so the drills let you do those things without, blocking you from getting a project, because you can just look at one little drill at a time.
Right.
Move on if you get tired of it.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I did.
But is it making sense though that concatenation is you're just doing that to display?
Right. Yeah, like a print. It's like print line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the print line is actually the label text. But yeah, constructing a line of text to print that looks like you want it to look is what you're doing with the computer.
Right.
Yeah. And you would do this in a programming language like Python or JavaScript by using the plus operator,
Right.
adding strings together, right?
Right. Yeah.
Join basically is a plus operator on strings.
Right.
So, Michelle, I'm curious about with the solution you sent me. Did you test it out, and then what did the final output look like? Was everything spaced out okay, or was it scrunched together?
I put a couple different things up there because I'm changing it as I go along to see what I had. And so I don't, like, the last one, I haven't actually put any spaces in. I can go back and put spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, join is actually back in, the SQL days. It means to join, from what I recall, join two tables together. That's what I was, or join two.
No, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it makes me think of, joining, select all from table, blah, blah. That's what I was, that's what it makes me think of, but that's the wrong context for this.
Yeah. Anybody have other questions on the drills?
None here.
Not from Tony.
Yep, okay. Is there other stuff you wanted to talk about?
So if there's no more questions on President's Quiz and list of lists and using list and index, going once, going twice, 3 times, or questions on the drills, right? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Then the only other thing left for today was talking about TinyDB. So you should have done lesson 6.6. So that would take you back to Android Mash and adding in a TinyDB that would let you save your highest score to your device. Was everybody able to get that working?
Yep.
Yeah, all
Yes.
good here.
Good here, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Not a problem.
So no questions about tag and value?
My first thing is I'm just curious in general how a TinyDB works. How is it stored? Is it stored within the program, or is there a file created somewhere on the device?
Device.
On the device. 'Cause it's using permanent storage, not volatile RAM. Not using main memory.
So pretty much a separate file is created to store that TinyDB?
Yep.
Okay.
What about, did that exercise call for you to restore the value when you restarted the app in the screen.initialize block?
No, it's the way you programmed it. It's when you press the what's that? The start button.
Then
That's how you did it. You set the set the value based on by getting the value from the TinyDB.
right.
It's
So
not on the.
when you do that, you have to provide a default value, right?
Yes. You said 0. I mean, it was supposed to be 0 anyway.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask about. You see that default value should vary depending on the type of data you stored with that tag, right?
Yeah, at least with respect to the high score, it should really be 0, though.
It should be a 0 if you stored a number. It should be an empty string if you stored some text. What should it be if you stored a list? What should the default value be?
An empty list, right?
An empty list, right. So that's important because if you store the wrong type of data, it might crash your app when you go to do something with what you get back in that case. Yeah? Like say it's a list.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here.
You're breaking up. Can't hear you. Who's getting an L chance? Is that right? We can't hear you. Tony, are you talking?
I can hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Now we can.
We can now. We couldn't a moment ago.
My question is there a way to add a file between, and like if I were running with the same user, but I want information, is there a way I can locate that file and clear it out?
Oh, good question. I think he's asking, can you get rid of the database file? Is that right, Tony? Is that right? Well, let's pretend that was this question.
Now I can't hear you. I'm on a cellular network at the moment.
Were you asking how you get rid of the database?
Yes.
Okay. If you're doing the app in the companion, you can go to your settings, the Android settings, and open up apps, pick the companion app, and then clear storage, or clear data. Okay, that gets rid of any data like files or databases that you've saved with it.
Okay. I picked up some of that because it was choppy, but
Pauline's
I'll
gonna
check
demo
the.
it. You go to settings.
Okay.
You go to
Yep.
app. You go to.
Okay.
Then you go to find the companion app, and then you can clear its storage. And the you do the same thing if you packaged your app. You'd go to the app and you can clear its storage to redo the database. So Pauline's selecting the companion, and then you can see, well, you can't read it, but it says the first option is clear data. It's like right there, there. See it? Clear data. If you clear it, you will empty your database. Yeah. We should put that in the tutorial. We should put a point about that.
All right. Well, thank you. I didn't quite get all of that just because of the breakup, but I'll watch the review of the recording and I'll get the solution. So the reason why I am asking is because through testing, I've exceeded higher scores than after finding my apps where I can't ever clear it. It's like, let's say I have a score of 7, but after I've reviewed and modified my apps, I can't get any higher score than 3 because I'm only asking 3 questions. And so now I can never beat my high score because everything is set to a higher level than what's possible.
You can clear it in the app.
You caught all that, but never
You can put a button in the app if you want, and that is a clear button, and then have it, for testing purposes, have it clear the database. That's probably an easier way to do it.
All right. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And those are things that real software developers do all the time. They put stuff in their app that they use during development. Yeah. There's a clear all button in the database and clear a certain tag. So for example, one thing you could do, a strategy for developing an app with a database that you want to be able to reset frequently to test certain features of your app. So you put a button on your interface that you just use for that purpose. And then when you're ready to market your app, you just hide the button. You don't delete it. You don't take the code out because you might have a bug come up and you want to go back and do that sort of stuff again. You see what I'm saying? Does anyone see what I'm saying? Is anyone there?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but yes, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that.
That would be easier than having to use the settings approach, but that will also work.
Thank you.
So Tony's getting another thing, and who else is out in the road?
We can,
Really?
yeah, you keep going in and out. Okay, so the main takeaways from 6.6 were that you supposed to learn about how to have persistent data and learning about how there's a tag and a value with the database inside the device, and then learning how to get the value and store the value. So you should be familiar and comfortable with getting and storing values using tags. So tomorrow the lesson is going to be on tiny web DBs. Hi, Dana. So that is going to be one of the most challenging lessons. So we've asked you to read over the lesson tomorrow morning. Join in with us for a 10 o'clock hangout to go over some of the terminology and what's in the lesson. And then after the hangout, complete the lesson. So we'll go over some of the definitions and any questions that you might have about the new concepts that are in that lesson. Again, you want to make sure that you have an understanding of what a tag is and what a value is, how to get things and how to store. And then if you have any questions after reading the lesson, come prepared to ask those at the hangout, and then I'll try to do a demonstration to explain the blocks and stuff before you actually use them.
So the hard new idea in Tiny WebDB is you're going to be storing data on a service that's out on the web. So it's what's called asynchronous. I know. I'm just warning them. Meaning everything you've done so far, including getting a value associated with a tag in the TinyDB, happens instantly as soon as you say to do it. So you can put a statement like "get me the data with this tag from the TinyDB," and it immediately comes back, and then you can go on to the next statement. You can't do that with TinyWebDB. You have to request it, and then an event will fire when the data comes back. So you can't actually put it in a sequence of statements and expect things to happen before and after it the way you do now. Okay, so this is a whole new control paradigm. So make sure you read it very carefully, and that's the hard concept. The tag and value, I think, is fairly simple, but it's the fact that getting something or storing something in the Tiny WebDB takes time, and you can't immediately see what's happening or use what's happening.
I assume this also becomes an issue in terms of sending to the TinyDB on the web.
In terms of what?
Well, normally if you're writing to a database that's right there, you can assume once you've written to it that the data's in there. You get an event back from the Tiny WebDB telling you that it did save the data as well.
Yes, yes. You can get an event. It'll either report that it saved the data or not.
Right. So that affects whether you want to make sure you hold on to the data, in your app or in the TinyDB locally before you get rid of it.
Right.
If you're not sure right away whether it got stored where you want it.
That's right. Yep. And yeah, it's quite complex compared to what you've just been doing. You're going to be getting an event back from this service. And imagine you're making multiple requests. You could make multiple requests to store data. That'll all go out to the service. There's no guarantee they happen in any particular order, because they go along different pathways, perhaps. And so you've got to check when you get the event to fire that it's done something. What has it done? Has it done this tag or that tag, and so on and so on. So it's quite a bit more complex than what you've had up till now in dealing with data. That's exciting, yeah? Pauline's saying no. Pauline, you're supposed to agree with me. Matt is jumping for joy in the back of the room over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see you in the morning.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Send email if you have questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I don't know why anyone would want to live in Texas. Oh, God. It's so